That's when I knew my son had become a monster. 6 years have passed since that moment, and I can still feel the weight of that realization crushing my chest. The moment when a mother's love collides with a mother's duty. My name is Margaret Chen. I am 63 years old. I am a retired psychologist who spent 35 years treating trauma survivors. I have witnessed the darkest corners of the human mind, comforted hundreds of broken souls, and helped rebuild shattered lives. But nothing in my career prepared me to discover that my own son was the monster in someone else's nightmare. This is the story I swore I would never tell. The story of how one phone call destroyed the illusion I had built for decades, and how 24 hours of silence changed 3 generations forever. Because you see, denial is a mother's strongest instinct. Let me take you back to that Tuesday. It was September 15th. I remember the exact date because it was the anniversary of my husband David's retirement party. He had been a federal prosecutor for 40 years, putting away criminals fighting for justice. He had died 3 years earlier from pancreatic cancer, leaving me alone in our San Francisco Victorian that overlooked the bay. My son, my only child, Marcus, 38 years old, a corporate attorney, brilliant mind, charismatic personality, had always been my pride. Or so I believed. The call came at 2:17 in the afternoon. I was in my garden tending to the roses David had planted the year before he died. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Margaret Chen? A woman's voice, young, trembling. Yes, who is this? My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm your son's girlfriend. I need your help. The word girlfriend shocked me. Marcus had told me he was single, that he was too focused on his career for relationships. I didn't know Marcus was seeing anyone. Silence on the other end. Then a sound that made my blood freeze. Crying. Not soft tears, but the kind of sobbing that comes from deep primal terror. Mrs. Chen, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Your son is not who you think he is. My hand started trembling. What do you mean? He's been holding me prisoner in his apartment for 3 days. I managed to get to his phone while he was in the shower. I only have a few minutes. Please, you have to help me. I felt the world tilt. That's impossible. My son would never. Your son raped me on our first date 6 months ago. When I tried to leave, he threatened to destroy my career. I work at his firm. He has connections everywhere. He said no one would believe me. This has to be a mistake. Marcus is. He locks me in his bedroom when he goes to work. He takes my phone. He chooses my clothes. Yesterday, when I tried to scream for help from the window, he broke my wrist. The sound of a door opening in the background. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He's coming. 2247, Lombard Street, apartment 6B. Please. I don't know how much longer I can. The line went dead. I stood in my garden, my phone in my shaking hands, staring at the roses David had loved. My mind was screaming 2 words over and over. Not Marcus. Not my son. But there was something in that woman's voice. Something I recognized from 35 years of treating trauma victims. Pure, undiluted terror. And underneath that, the hollow desperation of someone who had stopped hoping for rescue. I did what any mother would do first. I called Marcus. It went straight to voicemail. I called again. And again. On the 5th try, he answered. Mom, I'm in a meeting. Can I call you back? His voice was normal. Warm. The voice of my son who had called me every Sunday since college. The voice of the boy who had cried when his goldfish died at age 7. The voice of the man who had given the eulogy at his father's funeral, and made everyone laugh through their tears. Marcus, I need to ask you something. Sure, what's up? I took a breath. Are you seeing someone? A woman named Sarah Mitchell. The pause was less than a second. Most people wouldn't have noticed it. But I was a psychologist. I noticed. Sarah? Yeah, we've been dating for a few months. Why? She called me. Another pause. This one longer. She called you? That's weird. What did she want? She sounded upset. Is everything okay? Mom, Sarah has some mental health issues. I've been trying to help her, but she can be a bit dramatic. Did she say something concerning? There it was. The first lie. Or was it? Was I being paranoid? Was this woman really unstable, and Marcus was just trying to help her? She said she needed help. I know. She does. I've been encouraging her to see a therapist. Maybe you could recommend someone? She trusts you already if she felt comfortable calling. So smooth. So reasonable. So completely convincing. Marcus, she said you were hurting her. Silence. Real silence this time. 5 seconds. 10. Mom, I would never hurt anyone. You know that. Sarah has been making accusations at work too. I think she needs professional help. I've been patient, but it's getting concerning. I wanted to believe him. Every fiber of my being wanted to accept this explanation. Because the alternative was impossible. The alternative meant that the child I had raised, the son I had loved for 38 years, was a monster. But I couldn't stop hearing that voice. That terror. Where is she now? She's at my apartment resting. She's been having episodes. Look, Mom. I really need to get back to this meeting. Can we talk about this later? Is she okay? She's fine. I'll have her call you later to apologize for worrying you. I love you, Mom. He hung up. I stood there holding the phone, feeling the California sun on my face, and I made a decision. Called 911. 911, what's your emergency? I need to report a possible kidnapping. I gave them the address. I told them everything Sarah had said. The operator's voice became more alert. Ma'am, do you have any evidence? A phone call. A woman in distress who said she was being held against her will. And your relationship to the suspect? I closed my eyes. He's my son. What followed was chaos. The police went to Marcus's apartment. They found Sarah Mitchell, 24 years old, junior associate at Brenner & Worth, one of the most prestigious law firms in San Francisco. She had a broken wrist, multiple bruises in various stages of healing, a black eye that had been covered with makeup, rope burns on her ankles, and in Marcus's bedroom closet, hidden behind his winter coats, they found her phone, her purse, her identification, her car keys, and a notebook. In the notebook, in what the police confirmed was Marcus's handwriting, were detailed entries. Dates, times, descriptions of what he called training sessions. Rules Sarah had to follow. Punishments for breaking those rules. And photographs. God, the photographs. The police showed me 3 of them. Just 3. I couldn't look at more. They showed Sarah bound, terrified, crying. And in one of them, you could see Marcus's reflection in a mirror. Smiling. My son was arrested at his office. Professional, successful, respected Marcus Chan. Let out in handcuffs in front of his colleagues. His boss. His clients. I wasn't there, but I heard about it later. He didn't resist. Didn't even seem surprised. Just asked for his lawyer. And his lawyer, the best money could buy, called me that same evening. Mrs. Chun, this is Richard Blackwood. I represent your son. I need you to understand that Sarah Mitchell is a troubled young woman who became obsessed with Marcus. This is a case of false accusations driven by mental instability. I saw the photographs. Taken out of context. Sarah and Marcus have what some might call an unconventional relationship. Everything was consensual. The notebook is fiction. A story Marcus was writing. The injuries. Sarah's self-harming. We have experts ready to testify. She called me begging for help. She's unstable, Mrs. Chun. Surely as a psychologist, you understand that unstable people can be very convincing. Your son needs your support now more than ever. A mother's testimony could be crucial. I hung up. And then I did something I had never done before in my life. I walked to David's study, the one I had kept exactly as he left it, and I opened the drawer where he kept his case files. David had been meticulous. Even after retirement, he had maintained copies of important cases. I wasn't looking for anything specific. I just needed to feel close to him to channel his sense of justice. But then I saw it. A file labeled Chan M. Personal. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were documents I had never seen. Police reports from Marcus's college years. 2 different women had filed reports accusing him of assault. Both cases had been dropped. Both women had suddenly withdrawn their complaints. And there was a note in David's handwriting. Paid $50,000 to A. Stevens. $75,000 to K. Martinez. Can't keep doing this. Margaret can't know. Would destroy her. I read it 3 times. Then I vomited. My husband had known. David had known our son was a predator, and he had been covering it up, paying off victims, protecting his reputation, protecting my illusions. I don't remember much of the next few hours. I know I called my sister, Ruth, who drove 2 hours from Sacramento to be with me. I know I cried. I know I stared at family photographs, searching for signs I had missed, clues I had ignored, moments where I should have known. Ruth held me while I fell apart. Maggie, you couldn't have known. I'm a psychologist. I'm supposed to see these things. I treated victims like this for 35 years, and I never saw it in my own son. Because you loved him. Because he was your child. What kind of mother raises a monster? You didn't raise a monster. You raised a child who made monstrous choices. There's a difference. But was there? I had read the studies. Nature versus nurture. I had written papers on the development of antisocial personality disorder. I knew the signs, the early indicators, the red flags. Had I seen them and dismissed them? At age 8, Marcus's teacher had called me in for a conference. Marcus is very charming, she had said. But I've noticed he has no real friends. The other children don't trust him. I had dismissed it as social awkwardness. At age 12, a neighbor's cat went missing. It was found a week later in our garage, dehydrated but alive. Marcus had found it and was praised as a hero. I never questioned how it got there. At age 16, a girl from his school accused him of taking inappropriate photos of her in the locker room. The investigation went nowhere. I believed Marcus when he said she was lying for attention. Red flag after red flag after red flag. All of them ignored. All of them explained away. Because he was my son. Because I loved him. Because I couldn't see the truth. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. Sarah Mitchell was present, her wrist in a cast, sitting between 2 victim advocates. She was so young, so broken. When our eyes met across the courtroom, she didn't look angry. She looked hopeful, as if my presence meant I was on her side. Marcus sat at the defense table in an expensive suit, looking every bit the successful attorney. He saw me and smiled. That same warm smile that had melted my heart 1,000 times. He mouthed 2 words. Love you. I wanted to look away. I couldn't. The prosecution laid out their case. 6 months of systematic abuse. Rape on the first date, followed by threats to destroy Sarah's career if she told anyone. Escalating control. Isolation from friends and family. Physical violence. Digital evidence of Marcus tracking her phone, monitoring her emails, controlling every aspect of her life. And then, the 3 days of captivity. Sarah had tried to leave. Marcus had responded by locking her in his apartment, taking her phone, telling her work she was sick. Planning, the prosecutor said, to move her to a remote property he had recently purchased in Mendocino County. Far from anyone who might help her. The defense countered with their narrative. Sarah Mitchell, they claimed, was a woman obsessed. She had pursued Marcus relentlessly at work. When the relationship soured, she became vindictive. The injuries? From rough consensual encounters. The notebook? Fiction. The captivity? A misunderstanding. She had been free to leave at any time. If she was truly being held prisoner, the defense attorney argued, why didn't she scream for help sooner? Why didn't she try to escape when he went to work? Because that's what they always ask. Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you fight? Why didn't you scream? As if terror doesn't paralyze. As if trauma doesn't freeze you. As if survival isn't about doing whatever it takes to stay alive, even if that means compliance. I knew this. I had treated victims who blamed themselves for not fighting back. I had spent decades explaining that there is no right way to survive abuse. And yet, when it was my son in the defendant's chair, some dark part of me wanted to believe the defense. Wanted to believe Sarah was lying. Wanted to believe my son was innocent. That's when Sarah took the stand. And everything changed. She spoke in a quiet, steady voice about meeting Marcus at a firm event. He had been charming, attentive, interested in her career aspirations. They had gone to dinner. He had ordered wine. She remembered thinking he ordered too much, but she was nervous and drank more than usual. The next thing she remembered was waking up in his apartment, in pain with Marcus lying next to her. When she tried to leave, he had shown her photographs on his phone. Photographs of her, unconscious, naked. If you tell anyone, he had said, I'll send these to everyone at the firm. Your career will be over. No one will believe you anyway. I'm a senior partner's nephew. You're a first-year associate. Think carefully. And she had. She had thought about her law school debt, her family's expectations, her dream career. She had stayed silent. And Marcus had interpreted that silence as permission. The relationship, such as it was, had continued. Except it wasn't a relationship. It was ownership. He decided when she could see her friends. Never. He decided what she could wear. Conservative, nothing revealing. He decided when she could speak, only when spoken to in his presence. He tracked her location constantly, read her messages, monitored her calls. I thought if I just did everything right, Sarah said, her voice breaking, he would get bored and let me go. I thought if I was perfect he wouldn't hurt me anymore. But perfection was impossible. The rules changed constantly. What pleased him one day enraged him the next. The violence escalated. A slap became a punch. Push became a beating. Bruises she could hide became injuries she couldn't explain. When she finally decided to leave, to risk everything and just run, Marcus had known. Somehow he had known. He had been waiting at her apartment. He had smiled that charming smile and said, "Going somewhere?" That's when he had taken her to his apartment and locked her in. For 3 days. 3 days during which he had explained very calmly that she belonged to him now. That if she ever tried to leave again, he would make sure she disappeared completely. That he had the resources, the connections, the ability to make it happen. And she had believed him. Because monsters don't announce themselves as monsters. They smile and speak reasonably and make you believe that your own terror is irrational. The only reason I'm here, Sarah said, looking directly at Marcus, is because your mother answered the phone. And then she looked at me. Thank you, Mrs. Chun. You saved my life. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. The judge called a recess. I rushed to the bathroom and vomited again. When I came out, Richard Blackwood was waiting. Mrs. Chun, you understand that girl is lying? I found my husband's files. His expression flickered. Just for a second. I'm sure I don't know what you're talking about. 2 other women. 2 payoffs. How many more were there, Mr. Blackwood? How many times did you help cover this up? Your husband was protecting you. My husband was protecting a predator. And so are you. Mrs. Chun, if you testify against your own son, I will be doing what I should have done years ago. Choosing justice over love. He left. I sat on the bathroom floor for a long time. Finally, Ruth found me. Maggie, Marcus wants to see you. I can't. You need to. You need to hear what he has to say. She was right. I needed to hear him explain. I needed to understand how the child I had raised had become this. The jail meeting room was cold, sterile. Marcus sat across from me in an orange jumpsuit, still somehow maintaining that air of confidence. Mom, thank you for coming. Marcus. Before you say anything, I want you to know I understand. You had to report what Sarah said. It looked bad. But now you've seen her testimony. She's clearly unstable. The prosecution is desperate. All you have to do is tell the truth. What is the truth, Marcus? He blinked. That Sarah is lying. That this is a consensual relationship that went sour. That I never hurt her. I found your father's files. The change in his expression was instantaneous. The mask dropped. For the first time in my life, I saw my son without any pretense. And I didn't recognize him. Those women were liars too. 2 different women. 2 separate incidents. Same pattern. Dad understood. Dad knew what it was like to be targeted by opportunistic women. Your father enabled you. And I enabled you by being blind. Marcus leaned forward. Mom, you're a psychologist. You know how memory works. How suggestion works. Sarah's misremembering. The trauma of her own mental illness is creating false narratives. He was using my own profession against me. Using techniques I had taught him over family dinners, discussions about my cases, conversations about the complexity of human psychology. What about the notebook? Fiction. I was writing a thriller. What about the photographs? Consensual. She asked me to take them. What about the broken wrist? An accident during an argument. Lie after lie after lie. So smooth. so practiced, so utterly without remorse. Marcus, tell me the truth. Just once. Tell me the truth. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. Not the warm smile he showed the world. A different smile. Cold. Calculating. You want the truth, Mom? The truth is that women like Sarah exist to be used. They're weak. They're disposable. And society agrees with me, they just pretend they don't. Dad understood that. That's why he paid those girls off instead of letting them destroy me. That's why he protected our family. Those women weren't trying to destroy you. You destroyed them. I gave them what they wanted. Attention. Importance. A story to tell. They should be grateful. I stood up. I don't know you. Yes, you do. You've always known. You just chose not to see it. Because seeing it would mean admitting that you failed as a mother. That you raised this. He gestured to himself, still smiling. And you can't admit that. Your entire career is built on helping people. How can you help others when you couldn't even fix your own son? Every word was designed to wound. To make me doubt. To make me feel responsible. Classic manipulation. I had seen it 1,000 times in my practice. But knowing the technique didn't make it hurt less. I'm going to testify. No, you're not. Yes, Marcus. I am. If you testify against me, you lose your only child. Is that what you want? To spend the rest of your life alone? Knowing you put your own son in prison? If I don't testify, I lose myself. And that's a price I can't pay. I turned to leave. Mom. I stopped but didn't turn around. I'll make you regret this. I have information about you. About Dad. Things that would destroy your reputation. Your legacy. Everything you built. Then destroy it. I'd rather have the truth than a legacy built on lies. I walked out. I didn't look back. The prosecution was stunned when I offered to testify. Mrs. Chun, are you absolutely certain? Testifying against your own son. I'm certain. What do you need from me? They needed everything. My observations of Marcus's childhood behavior. My husband's confession about the payoffs. My professional opinion on Sarah's testimony and credibility. My own conversation with Sarah during that first phone call. The defense tried to block my testimony. Conflict of interest. Bias. Hearsay. But the judge allowed it. And on a cold October morning, I took the stand in my son's trial. Marcus stared at me the entire time. Not with anger. With curiosity. As if I were an interesting specimen he was studying. I testified for 3 hours. I explained the red flags I had ignored. The warning signs I had dismissed. The pattern of behavior that, in any other child, I would have recognized immediately as predatory. I explained my conversation with Sarah. Her fear. Her desperation. I explained my husband's files, his confession, the 2 women he had paid off. I explained that as a psychologist with 35 years of experience treating trauma survivors, I believed Sarah Mitchell's testimony was credible, consistent with genuine trauma, and entirely truthful. Yes, Marcus. I am. If you testify against me, you lose your only child. Is that what you want? To spend the rest of your life alone? Knowing you put your own son in prison? If I don't testify, I lose myself. And that's a price I can't pay. I turned to leave. Mom. I stopped but didn't turn around. I'll make you regret this. I have information about you. About Dad. Things that would destroy your reputation. Your legacy. Everything you built. Then destroy it. I'd rather have the truth than a legacy built on lies. I walked out. I didn't look back. The prosecution was stunned when I offered to testify. Mrs. Chun, are you absolutely certain? Testifying against your own son. I'm certain. What do you need from me? They needed everything. My observations of Marcus's childhood behavior. My husband's confession about the payoffs. My professional opinion on Sarah's testimony and credibility. My own conversation with Sarah during that first phone call. The defense tried to block my testimony. Conflict of interest. Bias. Hearsay. But the judge allowed it. And on a cold October morning, I took the stand in my son's trial. Marcus stared at me the entire time. Not with anger. With curiosity. As if I were an interesting specimen he was studying. I testified for 3 hours. I explained the red flags I had ignored. the warning signs I had dismissed, the pattern of behavior that, in any other child, I would have recognized immediately as predatory. I explained my conversation with Sarah, her fear, her desperation. I explained my husband's files, his confession, the 2 women he had paid off. I explained that as a psychologist with 35 years of experience treating trauma survivors, I believed Sarah Mitchell's testimony was credible, consistent with genuine trauma, and entirely truthful. And then I said something I hadn't planned. I loved my son. I still love my son. But love doesn't mean protecting someone from the consequences of their actions. Love means holding them accountable. Love means choosing truth over comfort. And the truth is that Marcus Chun is a predator who has hurt multiple women and will continue to hurt women unless he is stopped. The courtroom was silent. Sarah was crying. Marcus was still staring at me with that clinical interest. When I stepped down, I walked past the defense table. Marcus leaned over and whispered, "Very moving, Mom. Dad would be so disappointed." But I knew the truth. David would have been proud. Because in the end he had kept those files. He had documented everything. He had known that one day someone would need to tell the truth. And he had made sure the evidence existed. The jury deliberated for 2 days. They found Marcus guilty on all counts: kidnapping, rape, assault, unlawful imprisonment. The judge sentenced him to 23 years in prison. As they led him away, Marcus looked at me one last time. "See you in 23 years, Mom." I never responded, because I knew I wouldn't see him. I couldn't. Some people asked me later how I could do it. How I could testify against my own child. They didn't understand. I didn't testify against him. I testified for her. For Sarah. For the 2 women my husband had paid off. For all the women Marcus would have hurt if someone hadn't stopped him. A mother's love is powerful. But a mother's responsibility is more powerful still. After the trial, I sold the house in San Francisco. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. I moved to a small cottage in Carmel by the ocean. I volunteer at a domestic violence shelter. I help survivors rebuild their lives. Sarah Mitchell visits me sometimes. She graduated from law school and now works for a victim advocacy organization. She's in therapy. She's healing. She has a boyfriend who treats her with respect and kindness. "How are you doing with everything?" she asked me last month over coffee. Some days are harder than others. I still have dreams where Marcus is 5 years old, chasing butterflies in the garden, where he's innocent, where I can protect him from becoming what he became. Do you regret testifying? No. I regret not seeing it sooner. I regret all the years I wasted being blind. But testifying? That's the only thing I don't regret. She squeezed my hand. You saved my life. You saved your own life by having the courage to make that phone call. I just answered the phone. We were both right. Marcus sends me letters from prison. I don't read them. I give them to his therapist unopened. Maybe one day he'll do the real work of understanding what he did. Maybe one day he'll feel genuine remorse. But I can't wait for that day. I can't build my peace on the possibility of his redemption. I have to find peace anyway. Some people think I'm heartless, that a real mother would stand by her child no matter what. But I think real love means telling the truth. Real love means accountability. Real love means saying, I see what you've done and it's wrong. Because if I had stayed silent, if I had protected him, I wouldn't have been loving him. I would have been enabling him. And more women would have suffered. My son is not a victim. He is a perpetrator who made choices. Choices to harm, to control, to destroy. And those choices have consequences. I didn't put him in prison. His actions did. I just refused to help him escape justice. People ask me if I've found peace. The truth? Some days I have. Some days I sit in my cottage, listening to the waves, and I feel something close to contentment. Other days I wake up crying, mourning the son I thought I had. The son who never really existed. Both things can be true. I can grieve the illusion while accepting the reality. I can love the child he was while acknowledging the monster he became. I can carry this sorrow while also knowing I did the right thing. That's what they don't tell you about these situations. It's not black and white. It's not choosing between love and justice. It's holding both in your heart simultaneously and accepting that they don't cancel each other out. Last week, I got a call from another mother. Her son had been accused of assault. She wanted to know how I did it. How I testified. I don't know if he's guilty, she said. Part of me doesn't want to know. That's the hardest part, I told her. Choosing to know. Choosing to see. But once you know, you can't unknow. And then you have to decide what kind of person you want to be. What if I lose him? You've already lost him if the accusations are true. The question is whether you lose yourself too. She hung up. I don't know what she decided, but I hope she chose truth. Because in the end, that's all we have. The truth. Uncomfortable, painful, devastating truth. 6 years later, I can finally say, I am not defined by my son's crimes. I am defined by how I responded to them. And I chose justice. I chose the victims. I chose truth over the comfortable lie. Some days that feels like enough. Some days it doesn't. But it's the choice I have to live with. And I do live with it. I wake up every morning. I drink my coffee watching the sunrise over the ocean. I work with survivors who remind me why truth matters. I live. Because that's what we do. We carry our sorrows and our triumphs together. And we keep living. If you're listening to this and you recognize pieces of your own story, whether you're a mother in denial or a victim afraid to speak or a survivor finding your way back, I want you to know something. The truth will set you free, but first it will shatter you. And that's okay. Because sometimes we need to be broken before we can be whole. Sometimes we need to lose everything we thought we knew before we can find what's real. My name is Margaret Chen. I am the mother of a convicted rapist. And I am also the woman who chose truth over denial. Both of these things define me. And I'm learning to live with that. Thank you for listening to my story. If this touched your heart, share it. Not because I need recognition, but because somewhere, another mother is struggling with this choice. Somewhere, another victim is afraid no one will believe them. And they need to know they're not alone. God bless you. And remember, love without truth is not love at all. It's just denial dressed up in pretty clothes. The truth will hurt. But lies will destroy you. Choose truth. Always choose truth. Even when it costs everything.